How's it going there, everybody? It's Mr. Zen over here, bringing you guys a brand new Samurai Jack episode review. And for today's segment, guys, we're going to be talking about is episode 2 of season 5. Now, folks, this episode is a continuation from the last episode itself, as we see that season 5 is actually doing a traditional story path, unlike the other seasons of Samurai Jack, where it involved each episode was only just an individual story within each and every single episode that was going along, versus now this one, I'm starting to love it due to that actual reason that we're actually finally continuing one straight storyline instead of that. Now, granted though, this whole entire episode was literally Samurai Jack versus the daughters of Aku. That itself, I thought to myself, this episode was very much so entertaining, and it was very symbolical in terms of how it was being represented. And personally myself, I actually was on the edge of my seat throughout the whole entire time I was watching this. I am assuming a lot of you viewers out there as well were actually in that same type of style of excitement as I was, because Samurai Jack, folks, he was having a very difficult time, folks. A very difficult time facing off against a human enemy. A human enemy that he wasn't even aware of, folks. Yes, folks, throughout the whole entire episode, Samurai Jack was actually facing against the daughters of Aku. But before I get into and delve into that, I just want to talk a little bit before that is the fact of how the opening sequence that actually started with the episode itself. That's what actually caused it to be much more symbolic, due to the fact that in the beginning of the episode, folks, we see a little white wolf. He's just traversing through the woods, and he comes across a forklift, not knowing which way to go. Of course, its eyes become narrower, and it actually then thinks, it says, you know what, I'm gonna take a left. But that strong symbolism was represented in Jack itself, because later in the beginning of the episode, you see Jack coming up to us the same kind of forklift, and it says, okay, I'm gonna look around and just say, okay, I'm gonna take a left as well. And I personally thought to myself, that in itself says that the writers were trying to symbolize Jack as a lone wolf, a white wolf, a symbol of purity. So to me, it still stood and said that Jack still hasn't lost that innocence in him. He hasn't lost that pure heart that he actually has in it. But this episode, folks, this episode, Jack lost that. And I'm gonna get to that right now, folks, because that symbolic wolf that was shown in the beginning of the episode was really was a really major, impactful part of this storytelling episode in itself, folks, because the wolf itself later in the episode was of course traversing, and then it came up to another forklift. But this type of forklift, folks, was 3 beasts that came out of nowhere, and it was him by himself, and it was overwhelmed. The wolf itself was overwhelmed and said, you know what, I'm gonna fight these creatures until the bitter end. And yet again, it comes Jack. Jack comes in and you know, he goes up there and fights this advanced robotic beetle. This robotic giant beetle that Aku's scientists have created. And yet Jack defeats it nonetheless. But the thing about that made it interesting is the fact that Jack can defeat machines. He's not necessarily afraid of fighting machines. But what made this story actually entertaining, folks, was actually due to the fact that Jack was now facing against humans, but without his awareness. Because after the episode was continuing, we later now then become enhanced at the fact that the daughters of Aku were actually pushing Jack to the limits. Yes, folks, I'm going to explain very detailed as to what really went on. Jack, after he was done fighting that giant beetle, he literally was just overwhelmed by the daughters of Aku. The daughters of Aku were actually just demolishing Jack. One, after they destroy his bike. After they destroy his bike, they dismantle all his weapons. Jack was literally bare naked. He was bare naked, folks. And by bare naked, I mean that he had no weapons. All he was left was just his hands, and he was only able to run away. Like a little lost puppy, like I said, like that wolf in the beginning of the episode. He's that same wolf that's been trying to fight its way through life. a very pure wolf. Remember, guys, that white symbolic wolf is supposed to represent that purity that Jack has. Now we're continuing on, and of course the episode continues, and you see Jack running away into this kind of like this old style pyramid, and inside the pyramid, of course, there's mazes, and he tries to lose the daughters of Aku in there, but of course there's so many that they all spread out and thin out the whole entire pyramid itself, and Jack literally was hiding inside a crevice, a small crevice, folks. And the daughters of Aku could not find him, and they all of course knew that, okay, Jack led us to a trap. And they all thought about it, like, okay, he's in here. We know he is. Because they literally thinned themselves out. Like the daughters of Aku, they're very well organized. And by organized, I mean that they're like a giant wolf pack. And I personally mean a wolf pack because they literally made Jack to the point that it literally looked like Jack was literally gonna lose. And by lose, I mean even in the beginning of the episode, it was just enhanced at the way that Jack was running away, the emotional scenes that was continuing on with Jack itself, not even looking back, he's just running forward. Like, you feel the episode. There's no dialogue involved throughout the whole entire time Jack is running away. All you're hearing is just the traditional sound of how Samurai Jack invokes upon the viewer itself, where you literally just hear just the excitement, just the footsteps of Jack and the other ones, the swords clashing, Jack panting. That's all you hear. You don't hear nothing else. It literally, like, every viewer itself is gonna be just stuck to that TV screen, and that's the part that I'm loving, is that exact same reason. Now, you guys are all wondering, like, why am I still continuing talking about the wolf in itself and why it relates to Jack itself? And that is because the wolf, like I said before, it's supposed to represent purity. In this episode, when Jack was facing off against the daughters of Aku, he actually killed one of them. Yes, folks, he had no choice. He actually had to kill him because he was pinned down to the point that he could not, if he did not at least kill one, he couldn't run away. So when he killed one of the daughters of Aku, right there and then, her mask falls off, and Jack just looks at it and goes like, oh wow, wait, this is blood. Oh snap. And of course Jack got stabbed. Remember, guys, in the promo where Jack was running away and he was holding himself to the wall and blood was splattering across his abdomen. You know, this was that exact episode that they were talking about. This dark themes that are being invoked upon is actually now making sense of how Samurai Jack should have went from the previous seasons, and I'm loving how it's actually going. Now, by killing that daughter of Aku, Jack lost his purity, his sense of honor, as you can see. Because also earlier in the episode, folks, Jack was in a point where when he was running away from the daughter's school, where he was just bare naked. Remember, guys, he had no weapons, and in his mind, his subconscious was actually telling him, just give up, Jack. And you guys are wondering why is Jack going through this? Because, guys, Jack is tired of going through this. Jack is just human, you know. At the end of the day, he's just human. He doesn't have his sword. And you know what's hilarious, guys? We also finally get to see Aku involved in this episode. Yes, folks, we finally get to see the great, powerful Aku, but Aku was more or less to say involved more for comic relief. Because Aku seems that he's actually just as bad. He's actually suffering just like Samurai Jack is, because both of them are not clashing together. Remember, guys, these guys are yin and yang. Jack is the purity and Aku is the purity of evil itself, or the essence of evil itself, but they're separate. They're trying to avoid each other, and of course are growing tiresome. You know, Jack is supposed to represent that purity that's supposed to balance itself out with the world itself. With Aku, there is that never-ending struggle of good versus evil. No one's ever knows who's gonna win, but because Aku is suffering, that he doesn't know that the fact that he's the one that actually made Jack immortal by sending him into the future. He actually killed himself. In a sense, it's psychologically, like, the characters themselves are going through so much psychological trauma that, you know, these characters have to clash. It does not matter, even though one of them will win and one of them won't win. It doesn't matter. Aku and Samurai Jack have to clash together. Now, that's what I'm telling you. I'm loving about how the series is going. It's going so much deeper in depth with the characters themselves. And I'm loving the fact that they actually even reference to the previous episode. As remember, guys, when Jack fought against that Pied Piper, the robot, if I remember correctly, and he won that little sword that vibrates and actually causes explosions due to the sound vibrations. He actually did that at the end of the episode and actually won, but in the end, he still lost, because if it wasn't for a weapon of machines, Samurai Jack would have lost. And it seems that the story is invoking that Samurai Jack is actually relying on Aku's actual advanced technology to actually win against Aku, because without his sword, that's all he can rely on is Aku's own inventions. It's very entertaining, to say at least, that Aku himself is actually technically helping Samurai Jack. It's kind of funny in the sense. But like I said though, guys, that's it for today's segment. Let me know down in the comments below as to what you guys' thoughts, because this whole entire episode was just symbolic, powerful, and just leaves you breathless. Because at the end of the episode, guys, I myself was just left breathless, folks. But let me know down in the comments as to what you guys' thoughts between the symbolism between the wolf and Samurai Jack. Because remember, guys, at the end of the episode, the wolf died after fighting that wolf pack. So that means that Jack's purity is gone now. So I can't wait to see what more Jack has to face. And also, guys, what do you guys think of the Daughters of Aku? Do you guys think that the Daughters of Aku are still alive? Or do you guys think that the Daughters of Aku, or at least one, will be alive, you could say? But like I said, let me know down in the comments below, guys. And as always, guys, if you guys enjoy my content, don't forget to give a like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Samurai Jack episode discussions. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day. But this is Mr. Zen, signing out.